Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. Hi, Zibby.
I have so many questions and things I want to talk to you about regarding the book, but I just want to start because obviously the restaurant industry has been hit so hard by COVID-19. So I wanted to just get your point of view on that because I haven't talked to that many people in the restaurant industry. How are you coping and what are your sort of general thoughts? Sorry to put you on the spot here, but
No, not at all. First and foremost, it's really important if anyone watching is able to do so to please support their local restaurants that are doing delivery or takeout right now. In addition, you can buy gift cards. I know a lot of restaurants have started sort of a GoFundMe for their staff. They had to furlough or lay off for the time being at our restaurant, which is Coke Korean Steakhouse in New York City. We are a skeleton crew now, and we're doing takeout and delivery. It's very intense. But we do this in order to be able to send a weekly stipend to the staff members we had to lay off and to be able to keep them afloat during these times. So it's definitely not what we imagined our restaurant would look like. All the booths and tables that used to host all these fabulous guests are now filled with takeout containers and such. So, but no complaints. We are so grateful that we're beyond surviving. It's really really wonderful. Not a lot of our friends have that opportunity.
so your book was so good. I mean, I just emailed you. I was like, oh my gosh. I even emailed your agent. I was like, oh my gosh, this book is so good. Which I've had it since it first came out. I got it through bookshop.org, and so it's been sitting here, and now I feel terrible. I haven't read it yet. It was on my list all along, but I'm so glad I got the chance to finally read it because it's really one of my recent favorites. So, can you tell everybody how you decided to write this memoir and basically the journey that you describe in it, what it's about?
Yeah, so the book is sort of my coming of age story, starting and hi, Allison, my
I
understudy
know.
is my agent. She's amazing, and so Allison can attest. I first met Allison probably around 5 years ago, and I said, I have this idea of to write this book about my coming of age story in the wine world, and at the time it wasn't quite right. The Me Too movement hadn't happened yet, and so I continued to work on the book, and it sort of chronicles my journey from 13-year-old greasy spoon diner waitress to bartender, and then working and falling in love with wine, but feeling as if I was too young for sure. I was 19, definitely too poor. I didn't come from a lot of money, and the wrong gender also for this wine world, but I really loved what wine symbolized. Of course, any profession in which you can drink for a living sounded very appealing to a 19-year-old, but more so than that, it's, combined all of these things I love, this sense of community, serving others, restaurants, travel, history. And so when I became 21, I took my sommelier exam and became certified, and also was working as a sommelier at a Michelin-starred restaurant here in New York. And I thought, if I kept working in better places, that the environment would become better. But I just found that it seemed almost the fancier the restaurant, the more toxic the culture. And, for a while I was writing just as my own sort of therapy to work through a lot of, the sexism and misogyny I faced. And then after a while, I was like, I think that maybe this could be a book. And, but there's a difference between writing for yourself and putting all of your embarrassing moments out there. But what really kind of inspired me to do so was that I became a leader, a partner at Cote, and this restaurant, and I saw how many young women looked up to me for guidance and to be this sort of role model. And I realized that I was one of the few women in wine that was in a position to write this book, because unfortunately a lot of women in wine and restaurants still face a lot of pushback, and they don't have the luxury of writing a book like this because they need to get a job. So I figured if I didn't write it, who would? So it's not just my story, it's so many women's stories, and it's a narrative I think a lot of women, anyone who's ever worked in a restaurant or public service, can definitely relate to.
Wow. I just want to read one quote, which of course now I'm not going to be able to find, but it described why, well, okay, I can't find that quote. So let me start this again. Wait, hold on. It was so good, but it was essentially about why you found yourself as a sommelier, because it combined sort of your mother and your father's backgrounds. That your mother came from a background, she was a countess and came from this very, storied, traditional, you know, cream of the crop type family, and your father was more, came from poverty, and that you felt like being a sommelier was like being a glorified servant, and so in that way it married both of their experiences. So I just wanted you to comment on sort of the being the product of those two very different people, and of course your book goes into what happens with both of your parents along the way, but I just wanted you to speak to that quote for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because I think that, a sommelier is essentially a highbrow servant, but it was my background of like blue collar meets blue blood combined that I think maybe that's the quote.
That was the quote. That was it.
That gave me kind of empathy for both positions. And, my grandmother on my mother's side was Contessa, and she always kind of grew up telling me that one's social class does not define one's character. And I think that working in these fancy restaurants, a lot of people can become intimidated by all of these celebrities and politicians and kings and such that you wait on. But that doesn't make them who they are. And so by having that, I think in my family, it gave me that background and that experience, and also empathy. And then my father's mother was also fabulous, and she was a cotton picker in Tennessee, and she didn't even own a pair of shoes until she was 12. But these two women, even though they came from such different backgrounds, were just really lovely people, and by having a foot in both of their worlds, I think allowed me to be eventually a better sommelier.
Wow. So now that this book is out there and you're surviving pandemic promotion, like what's next for you? You have, you're so young and you've already done so much and made your way through it. I feel like you can do anything you want. So like, what are some of your blue sky dreams or hopes, or are you just sort of getting through the next phase of life and seeing what happens?
Well, this, I'm sure for so many people watching as well, this quarantine's been great for reflection. And with the restaurant, we're opening a Miami property this fall, and continuing to, open up more coats, but also growing the nonprofit Wine Empowered and really empowering more women and minorities to kind of feel included in the hospitality world, and help mentor them. Those are my two biggest goals right now. And then the third one right now, also during quarantine, I've been working on a lot, is a third book, a novel. So that's the next blue sky.
Wow, that's great. I know we're almost out of time, but do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
I don't know. I think everyone's journey is so different and everyone writes differently. I think that you should write what makes you happy and what brings you joy. And for me, what brings me joy is writing something that will resonate with other people and empower them to, take hold of their own lives. So yeah, write what makes, what brings you joy.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for Wine Girl. Thank you for just opening up all your deepest, darkest secrets so that we can all feel your pain and be inspired to change the environments that created some of the things that were done to you in the past. So it's really important, and it's such a good book, and you're such a good writer. So I'm really excited for your novel, and keep it up.
Thank you, Zibby.
Appreciate your time. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.